Hey, universe and mining family. Grab your shovels and your pickaxes. Welcome to the show. I'm Nemesis, and of course, I'm not your babysitter. Do your own research, but let's dig in. Hey, what's going on, mining family? Got another little tutorial brought to you guys. So for today, we are going to be doing some GPU maintenance. So one of the first things you always do when you're doing GPU maintenance is you clean it first real quick. So I've got a vacuum cleaner here and all that good stuff. I have a few tools sitting on the workbench. Boom. So I have some thermal paste from Thermaltake TG7. This is non-conductive carbon thermal paste, or thermal grease. I have a set of needle nose, may need it, might not, and then trusty screwdriver. And then on the screwdriver, I have a number 1 bit on here, not a number 2, which is the most common one for households. This is a number 1 bit. If you've got a number 2 bit, it's not going to fit into the screws, and you're probably going to strip them out. You're not going to have a good time. So make sure you have a number 1 bit. If you don't, stop here. So moving forward, guys, the first thing I'm going to do is do a little bit of vacuuming on here, and let me get this out. And I'm going to go ahead and turn my microphone off while I do this so that I don't blow out anybody's eardrums. And when you're doing this, hold down on the fans. You don't want to just let these fans just take off sailing away, because when you're doing this, you can get these fans up to some serious speed. And if you're using like a regular household vacuum cleaner, definitely turn it on, blow it away from the rig for a few seconds. This way it clears the dust out of the tube. Worst thing you want to do is just lay out more dust on your graphics card. So let's go ahead and bam, blew out all that dust. You guys probably saw a little bit of schmutz come out. So now I can give myself a little bit of a room now, and you flip it over, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of little perimeter screws here. These screws on the Asus 1070 on these white editions, these hold on the plastic case, which is also the fan shroud. You're going to want to take up all these little screws that are all around this perimeter here, and then these 4 bigger screws. This holds the cooler onto the board itself. So the first thing I'm going to do, guys, we're just going to go ahead and just unscrew all of this good stuff, just like this. And it doesn't take that long to do this at all. Alright, now that I've got the case undone here, now the fan section, can lift up away. And you'll notice there is a little fan connector right here. You can go ahead and unplug that. Be gentle with when you're grabbing this. Of course, this is where I was saying you may or may not need a pair of needle nose on this. Sometimes you just can't get the leverage you need to just wiggle this thing out. There we go. My fingers don't fit in there, they're a little fat. Alright, so now give these things a little test spin. They feel really nice. Everything on the inside here is pretty clean. Set this off to the side. And this is the cooler itself, and you can see it's nice and cleaned off. You can see right through it. And that's a good thing. Now we can go ahead and separate the cooler away from the GPU itself. And if you just notice that I just hung the back I/O plate here, or the rear I/O, I'm hanging it off the edge. This way I'm setting the cooler flat against the wood surface. And whenever you're breaking these down, make sure that you're breaking it down on a non-conductive surface. The last thing you want to do is have anything in here with residual power still in it, and it tries to short circuit itself against, like, let's say a metal desk. You're not going to have a good time. And then if you notice here, if it'll focus in, this little screw here has a sticker on it. It's not a void if punctured. It's also so they know that you were in here to at least do some maintenance, replacing the thermal paste. They can't tell you can't replace the thermal paste. Over so many years, you're going to have to do this no matter what. If you guys do not feel comfortable doing this maintenance, certainly get a hold of me in my Discord. I got links in down below to all that stuff. And I'll give you like a P.O. box that you guys can send GPUs to, and I can do fan replacements for you, thermal replacement, replace the thermal pads on there and all that good stuff, and I'll get them back to you probably faster than RMA, unless I get like a bazillion people hitting me up, but I haven't had anybody do it yet. Bam. Now, it should just separate apart. Wow. Okay, so as you can see here, there's not a lot of paste on this. There's like bare spots on here, so that's not very good. And then you look onto the corresponding onto the cooler, and it's got even more bare spots on here that don't correlate with the chipset. So it looked like the thermal compound on this was starting to fail. And of course, I need a paper towel. Of course, need paper towels. I forget to bring that over here. Yay! Don't need a whole lot. And you just kind of come in here. Now the first little bit of this, it's like chunky when it comes off. Just because the grease that they use is completely dried out. So get everything off of here. Doesn't have to be like perfect. You more or less want to get it off the top of the surface of the chip itself. This way when you're putting new compound down onto it, it's got a good surface to adhere to. Alright, bam. Then get my rubbing alcohol here. And then the rubbing alcohol I'm using is 91% isopropyl alcohol. And just give it a nice good little wipe. Alright, gets to like a little bit of the residual. Now, I get yelled at sometimes for this, but I like to use a nice clean piece of cloth just to get whatever residual. And some reason, like a nice clean piece of cloth, I don't know if you can see that, like gets it better than anything else, just as like a final little wipe. And then whenever you're done, your chipset should be that shiny. And then you notice around the chipset that, especially down here, that it's not everything's out of there. You don't have to really worry about it. That's not going to harm anything for it being there. You're more or less wanting to replace what's on the surface, not what oozed off to the side. We don't care about that stuff. And then also, well, you got it apart. As you see here, there's some dirt and everything right here. And since you got it apart, take the time to clean it, guys. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to mute the mic for 2 seconds because I'm going to run the vacuum cleaner one more time. Alright, so I got some of it up. Now I want to take a little Q-tip to it because it didn't really get it as nicely as I thought it was going to. Alright. Get that all nice and clean. And I like to use the rubbing alcohol because it evaporates out of there. Alright, so that's nice and clean. And from here, now whenever you're applying thermal grease, now you don't have to put a whole ton of it, but with the non-conductive, you can't overload it. You're just going to have a waste basically. So I usually do like a little X pattern on them. Alright, just like that. And I barely used any. I barely pushed anything out of there. Now, if you guys are noticing that I had, when I did my live stream last and I was doing some GPU maintenance, these little stands tried to come out. Now, they're Loctited in place, so sometimes they come out and you'll have to use the needle nose for it too. So don't be scared if you have to do that. And then, since everything's nice and clean, you can go ahead and reassemble, guys. It is. And then when you're doing this, try to like look through the little hole here and look where the riser stand is. This way you get an approximate where it's landing. And as you tighten down the screws, you don't need to sit there and put Herculean strength down onto it to tighten these down. You're only sandwiching the board to the actual riser on the cooler. You're not like sandwiching and capturing the chip in there. And let's go ahead and get this other one in here. Bam. One last screw. Now I don't tighten these down until they are all in place. And you can sit there and tighten them down. Again, finger tight. Does not have to be Herculean strength. Bam. Now that cooler is on there really nicely. It's not going to go anywhere. Bam. Look at that. Now I can put the fan cooler back on. Now whenever you're putting this back together, don't forget to plug in your fan header. It will turn on without the fan there, but it will overheat on you at the same time. And the plug only goes in one way. There's a couple of grooves and an opening in the receiver that the grooves have to slot into. Makes it a little easier to remember which way it has to go. And then there's these cooling pipes here, and there's a little notch down in here, so I kind of wrap the notch into the cooler section, and it allows me to drop it down really nicely. And then again, just flip this bad boy over. Sail these screws back in place here. Of course, these are like the world's smallest screws. Now don't tighten them all down until you got them in place. And then the casing is just plastic, so try not to over tighten these things too. You're gonna strip it out. Not gonna have a good time when the plastic's stripped. Get these bad boys in. Alright, now that I got them all in, I can kind of tighten down. Just like this. Doesn't take that long to tighten these down. It's not like the Zotacs and their back plates if you're trying to release those, to put some thermal pads behind the behind the board to help heat transfer through. And not as bad as the 980 Ti that I did too. The 980 Ti, to release that cooler, is a ton of screws. Holy cow. Alright, so bam. All the screws are tightened down. Everything's back together. Bam. Yo, check this out, guys. Bam. Everything's back together, nice and clean. And you don't have to worry about, like, did I set the thermals, the thermal compound properly? As long as you didn't shift everything around when you applied it, it should be fine. And just tightening everything down will spread it across the heat sink and everything like that. And whenever you turn it on, it'll warm it up the rest of the way, move everything around for you. And yo, this card should be very, very happy, guys. I hope this video was very informative for you guys. If you have any questions, certainly drop your questions in down below. If you'd like me to do the maintenance on your GPUs, either get on my Discord, get a hold of me directly, or drop some comments in down below too. Yo, I love tinkering, so if you guys want to pay me cryptos, or pay me crypto to work on your GPUs, I will get them back as quickly as I can to you guys, so you could be mining and making some of that visited Bitcoin. While you're down there dropping comments, guys, smash that lizardy like button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell, share these videos with other people. Maybe somebody else you know is wondering how to take apart their GPUs and rethermal paste them. This might be helpful for them. And with that, guys, I'll see you on the next one.